Hi everyone, good morning. It's Chris Loxley from Loxley String Studios. I wanted to take a few minutes this morning to do a video talking a little bit about thumb position, as I have a few students that are really diving into that right now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about technique, talk a little bit about a couple exercises that I like to do for thumb position, and kind of take it from there with just a few songs out of a book I use. The book that I like to use, at least one of them, for thumb position is Thumb Position for Cello by Rick Mooney. Really good book, and he also has a second one that's called Thumbs of Steel. Some really good exercises in here that I like to use on a daily basis for my thumb position work, and I think it's great for both beginners and people that are just trying to keep their technique up in thumb position. So, a couple things. The first thing, as I play a scale or two to get us started here, is we're going to start on D major, or open thumb position, where our thumb is on our harmonic on the D and A string. So that's the first step, is to be able to find that comfortably. And then from there we have, whole half spacing on both strings to get our D major scale, which is really the first scale that we play in thumb position. What you notice is, just like with first position, when we want to have fingers behind the playing finger stay down, meaning instead of something like this or something like this where our other fingers are up in the air, we want to make sure that we keep them down and keep them really nicely in shape while we're playing. This is going to allow us to play faster and more accurately. Don't lift your fingers high up off the strings, and also don't flatten your fingers. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So in the Rick Mooney book, they have a bunch of daily warm-ups. They actually have 10 of them. My favorites are 5, 6, and 7. And as you go and play through those, if you're a student of mine, we'll definitely be working on those. And the kind of reminders that I go through as I talk through these exercises is to keep my fingers nice and round, not flat, just like in first position, right? You don't want flat fingers, you want round fingers. And to make sure that I keep my spacing even as I play, say, a third finger, that I don't let these other two fingers get up, right? Those are some of the most important things to be thinking about as you work through these. Notice that my elbow is pretty much almost even. It's not back here, because then that's going to let me flatten out my fingers in a way. See, I can barely reach my third finger when I'm flattened out like this. When I come around the cello a little bit and round those fingers, it's more like a position that my hand would be in first position. So it's a little easier to get round, okay? It's also a little easier to do what I call staying on top of the string, which means I'm not pulling away like this. I'm really much on top of the string, okay? So, as I do the next one, the shape becomes very important. 6. 2 whole steps. Scale in thirds, right? Number 7, same thing. We want to work on our hand shape in thumb position. Now this is one that I always catch students doing single fingers, for example, on this high D. I see that all the time. But then, what if you had to play? What would you do, right? It wouldn't be as smooth. So, both for the sake of intonation, but also for the sake of speed, you want to make sure to keep in that shape and in that form. Okay? Great. So he's got a couple great pieces in here. One thing that I really like about this book is that the first couple things he does is he gives you a couple songs that you should recognize from your early days of Suzuki. The next two songs are French Folk Song and May Song, both of which you should recognize from Suzuki. And with these, I also like to explore the idea of playing double stops for the sake of intonation in thumb position. So while May Song, of course, I like to, just like I teach my students to do in first position, and if I want to take some extra time on notes, try to get a feel for exactly where it sits intonation-wise. Playing the double stops because it lets me know exactly where I stand as far as intonation is concerned. It's like playing with another cellist, right? So that's great. This book goes on in D major shape to give you several other good tunes. Stephen Foster. There's also a great original by Rick Mooney here, I'll Always Remember You. And then we get more into sort of fiddle type stuff, Soldier's Joy and some other tunes. These are all really great. So these are just a couple beginner to concepts to remember when you're playing the thumb position. Stay round, don't flatten, right? Make sure you stay up on top of the string. Make sure you bring the elbow around slightly more than you might think at first. And of course, make sure you don't get stuck back here, right? Okay? So these are a couple things, and then of course, shape behind the playing finger. Don't play a third finger like this, play it like this. These are a couple things I'm thinking about when I'm in thumb position, when I'm first getting comfortable. Okay, thanks. Hope that helped.